Technology, digital, creativity, content. 4 points that also Bilal touched on, and 4 points that we have heard throughout the entire day. So, our next session will talk about the evolution of business travel and incentives in the market in this region. The topic of the next panel discussion, which the moderator will discuss with his participants. Please join me in welcoming back on stage the moderator for this panel, Fabrizio Puglisi.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
No problem. So, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I moderated my first panel before lunchtime, so I'm happy now you enjoyed your lunch. You are relaxed, so now you are more willing to listen to us. I'm going to have the last panel at 5, so I hope you're going to stay. I watch you one by one. So I would like to immediately start with my introduction about the topic that is related to my main expertise, so the destination marketing. We'll talk about the evolution of business travel and incentive market in the region. Before I introduce our notable speakers, I would like to start with a statement related to the topic. According to a World Travel and Tourism Council Economic Impact Report, the global MICE market was estimated to contribute US 2,248 billion to global GDP in 2014. Recently, Euromonitor stated at the Arabian travel market in May that the UAE MICE business sector, first in the GCC, generates only 653 million per year. Proportionally, you may notice there is a huge potential in view of Expo 2020, especially because the International Association meetings in the Middle East have more than tripled over the last 10 years. We'll try to understand more about this trend with our notable speakers, starting from Mr. Daniel Ponzo, the General Manager of Al-Rostamani Travel. Big round of applause for Mr. Daniel. That will introduce his position and...
Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Daniel Ponzo. I'm the General Manager of Al-Rostamani Travels. I joined this company 17 months ago. Before that, I spent 3 years in Saudi Arabia working for one of the leading travel company as the CEO. And before that, I worked at the Crony Group for many years with different international assignments. And the last one was Managing Director for the Southern Europe countries. Al-Rostamani Travel, it's mostly business travel, and then we have as well destination management and leisure outbound with a few retail stores in UAE. That's me.
Thank you very much. The following one will be Mr. Karthik, the head of Middle East and Africa and India at Ipsos Business Consulting.
Hi everyone, I'm Karthik. I'm the Director of Consulting for the region of MEA and Middle East, Africa and India. I don't have such a long history with many firms. I've been with this firm for about 11 years. And if you know, Ipsos is the second largest research company, and the consulting business is in the advisory space for growth strategies. So that's a quick background about myself.
Thank you very much. Last but not least, Mr. Sunil De Souza, who is the Regional Travel Director, UAE, Oman, Qatar, Iraq, and Afghanistan at Canoe Travel.
Some exotic destinations indeed.
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. I've been with Canoe Travel for almost now 15 years, and Dubai 20 years, 5 years with American Airlines. Great company. It's a family-owned multinational conglomerate having diverse interests. Then I manage 5 different diverse markets and a great inspired team that really drives, there's an engine behind the overall excellence what we have at Canoe Travel. We also have a sizable, a substantial MICE interest. We handle pharma, manufacturing, FMCG, electronics, and other corporates. The team, almost 30, 40 people working together as a cohesive unit working on a 24/7. And as we speak, there are 3 different groups are being handled in 3 different countries at this point in time. So it's a very exciting business segment for us in our overall strategic piece of business. So I'm glad that I'm part of this MICE discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to start with Mr. Daniel. Give us some data about the GCC inbound and outbound travel market.
Well, I will start with the very big data, which is the overall expenditure of the GCC market at $64 billion, and we are talking about 37 million people traveling outbound. But as well, what's interesting is only 3% of the global outbound travelers in the world. So you can see how much potential there is from this part of the world to grow the business. Then if we focus a little bit more into the MICE business, actually before the MICE business, there is as well the travel business, which is approximately $20 billion. And then if we would like to focus a bit more into the MICE business, the overall GCC MICE business, it's 1.3 billion. So before you said Dubai 600 million, which is approximately the same amount, but it's 30% of the MICE business is in Dubai. And we are counting approximately 1 million people coming for MICE in Dubai, and this is going to increase by double in the next few years. And then what you have as well as very important information is this 1.3 billion, the sub-segment of this 1.3 billion. You have 44% of this 1.3 billion, it's just events and meetings. Then you have 40%, it's exhibitions. Then you have 10%, it is conferences, and only 5 to 6% the incentive business. So you can see that the incentive business is quite low. Then 90% of this 1.3 billion is generated in UAE for organized meeting and events in UAE and outside UAE.
90%.
95%. And 5% it's ex-UAE, so business coming from ex-UAE into UAE. We know that Dubai is expecting 20 million people by 2020. Dubai is the fourth most visited city in the world, with approximately 15 million people coming here. It's the third most important hub from airlines connectivities, and the 10 most important tourism projects are estimated at $40 billion. And you have Abu Dhabi as well, which is expecting approximately 8 million people by 2030. At the same time, you have as well Qatar, which is a promising market, which are expecting as well for the same period, 7 million people. These are just data, and I think numbers are important, and this gives us as well an idea of the potential and the growth of this overall market.
Thank you very much. Very interesting data. We'll talk about later. I would like to ask to Mr. Sunil, how do you currently compare the UAE with the other destination? We saw that you have quite a lot to compare.
Well, actually, from the MICE perspective, if you're asking me to compare, I mean, if you're talking about MICE to MICE, which is like comparing apples to apples, you're talking about within GCC, you have Qatar, which is a next emerging MICE handler. I think they have a lot of inbound into MICE, I mean, into Qatar. Then you have on the tertiary level, you have KSA and Bahrain and Oman and these markets. But it will be a very challenging task for me to do a comparison of UAE with other markets. Now, when I talk about UAE, I'm talking about the two robust dynamic destinations, Dubai as well as Abu Dhabi, because I think we need to go back in history, because to me, UAE MICE market looks like it is because of the visionary leadership of the leaders of both Dubai and Abu Dhabi. They've been preparing this market, they've been priming this market for many, many years. It is like an Olympic athlete preparing for the event, and again, at the end of it, like when the event happens, he comes out with gold. This exactly is the metaphor that I can use with respect to UAE, because if you look at, I mean, I've been in this market for the last 20 years. 5 years back, if you go back in time, because when you talk about comparison, you need to have stats. But now, in the case of other markets, it is quite unskewed. And today, Dubai is the place to be, or Abu Dhabi is the place to be, because look at the world-class infrastructure. And the hospitality and the leisure infrastructure in this part of the world is amazing. I've traveled over the world attending events as well as participating in many of them. And I could unhesitatingly, I can say, the quality of the events and the quality of the logistics in this part of the world is second to none and best in class. And also, if you look at from the, I think I could talk about the intrinsic elements bit at length, but I just want to touch upon the business fundamentals here. You look at the statutory structure within the UAE. It's a very open, transparent legislation or the regulation they have. And it is very business friendly, consumer friendly, and again, and one of the key elements for the MICE events, the MICE planners consider is how safe the destination is, how safe the site is, the location is. I think when it comes to safety, I think I can definitely place UAE at the top of the rank, because you have everything covered. The people coming in from others, we do handle MICE coming from India, China, and other markets as well. And the comments that we get after they have departed is that they had an excellent time and everyone felt safe and sound. Again, these are the few things what you see in front are obviously being managed well by the authorities here. So that is their safety, and security is the number one aspect. Cost-wise, yes, again it is very competitive. And obviously you pay a price for the quality and the other amenities that flow through the system. And also, if you look at the government that promotes the infrastructure development, both the roads and bridges and the transportation. Look at the airports. Airports, I think they're expanding. They're on a constant flux of expansion. There is a value being infused at different locations. Today, there are 100+ airlines operating, and in 2015, I think Dubai handled around 78 million passengers. By 2020, Dubai tourism wants 20 million visitors into Dubai. So although I think there are challenges in terms of the energy sector, I think going through contraction, and as a result, the economy is also slagging. But again, business is always cyclicals. So what goes down has to come up, I think, as the saying goes. So things are going to improve. And if you look at the data for the last couple of months, last quarter versus this quarter versus the next quarter coming is looking positive. The trend is positive. Although the numbers may be a little bit challenging. But then again, comparing UAE, which is Dubai and Abu Dhabi, with other destinations, I think it's a huge difference. I think most of the other destinations are many years behind. Again, it is all to do with the leadership here, and it is all to do with the kind of people in the MICE industry. Those travel management companies that are managing the MICE events here are very professional. And again, MICE, I think this is our own experience. You need a separate set of people with specific certifications. For pharma industry, I think you need people with the certifications, and you need to have the event management platforms such as Cvent or Starsight. I think one of the platforms. So we use that quite extensively, and we also liaise quite closely with the local authorities, the hotels, the suppliers, and other elements who are responsible to deliver the world-class experience for our customers. Again, I think Dubai will excel. Again, 2020 is just around the corner. They have huge expectations, and from the MICE perspective, they're looking at UAE to generate about 9.8 billion turnover from 1.3 billion or whatever they have currently. And Qatar, for instance, if I do a comparison, they're looking at 1.9 billion. So 9.8 to 1.9 billion, and other markets, I think, maybe much on the lower side. So this market has made a tremendous, leap, what I call a quantum leap, right. And I'm sure that is going to set. I think this is the place to be noticed, and this is the place where the mega events are going to happen. And obviously, I think going forward, I think Dubai and Abu Dhabi has quite an interesting time to manage.
Thank you very much for the extensive presentation of the markets. I'd like to go to Mr. Kartik to ask how can the region can position itself to maximize its leadership position as a MICE destination.
Absolutely, thank you. I think it's a tough act to follow, because two industry veterans have pretty much touched upon all the key aspects of what enables a destination. So I think if I have to, at the risk of repeating what they are saying, kind of synthesizing what they are saying, I think the key aspect which he touched upon is, of course, the infrastructure, the connectivity. When I say infrastructure, we're talking about connectivity, I'm talking about hospitality, and of course, things like even visa processing. Meaning, for an example, I've had personal experiences as also experiences from other colleagues where the major key was not the connectivity, nothing to do with hospitality, but it ended up with issues with respect to visas not being issued on time. I think those are the enabling infrastructure which this region or UAE has been quite forward looking in, and that's something which we need to consistently push as a way to promote the region. The second thing which is critical to sell from this perspective is the classical the number of hours to travel to any part of the world, except for North America or the Americas. Pretty much you are covering everything in the 8-hour radius, be it east, which is the whole of South Asia, as also the North Asia, as also west, which is the European continent, and then now which is picking up is Africa, because pretty much this place is about 8 hours from any one of those major economic regions, and that is something which they should be communicating, they should be promoting as something which differentiates this location as a MICE location. The last one, of course, I should reiterate this, it comes times again in our research, is the safety aspect. One of the challenges which at least from the outside the region, is the whole region is perceived as some place where the security aspect is and safety is something which is low because of various events which are happening. So that's where a sub-segmentation strategy with respect to communication is important, especially from the players. One thing is from the government, as also the players in the value chain of MICE itself. That will make a big difference in the way they perceive the region. Meaning, for an example, if you look at UAE or let's say Qatar as a sub-segment, it's extremely safe. It's probably safer than any of the famous destinations in Europe, be it Egypt, be it Turkey. It's much better. But the point is, when people look from the outside, they look at Middle East as a single region, and they are pretty anxious when it comes to the safety aspect of the region because of the various events which are happening in this region. So to me, that's the key message which needs to go, as to there are safe hubs, and that is something which they need not be worried about while planning their trip to the region.
Thank you very much. I would like to ask Mr. Daniel, because from his data analysis we've noticed that the incentive market was a little bit down compared to, for example, Europe as a tourist destination. Would you like to explain why?
Sure. This is something as well that surprised me when I joined this part of the world in the last 4.5 years. And when I analyzed these data about the 5% of the total MICE business incentive, then I just looked around our competitors and coming as well from another part of the world. I believe this part of the world is extremely strong in corporate travel. And if I see the MICE abbreviation, I would, take out the I, because I don't think here, compared as well to what I experienced, there are, truly specialist companies that are organized incentive groups. Because on one side you have all the travel companies that are organizing fantastic events, fantastic conferences, very good exhibitions, and if you would like to have a truly incentive partner, this is very difficult to find in this part of the world. In Europe you have specialized companies that are handling incentive, which comes from the communication part, and the travel part is a very little part of the overall incentive business model. So on one side we do not really see incentive house specialized in this part of the world, and corporate, actually what they do when they organize incentive, they involve the HR department, and then they organized something to motivate people and incentivize people. So maybe this is a kind of challenging of what we've heard so far, but I mean, this mice business sometimes can be misinterpreted in this part of the world.
Thank you very much again. I would like to ask Mr. Kartik. You compare a few countries in the Middle East area. I would like to do a comparison with India, because I noticed that you are also the head of Middle East, Africa and India for your company. So if you'd like to present a few differences with these two big markets, because India is one of the most growing markets.
Absolutely. I'll look at it from inbound perspective, meaning whether the UAE can attract better or India can attract better. I mean, clearly India is a large opportunity. But I again refer back to the infrastructure, enabling infrastructure for MICE travel. The key being connectivity, the number of seats to the location. The second one being hospitality, the evolution of hospitality itself. And the third one is with respect to the visa processing, meaning how easy or difficult is it for an outsider to get into the market. But I don't think I have to reiterate myself, or you would know the facts. The reality is probably this region is way ahead when it comes to all of these. And then of course I refer back to the final point I raised with respect to safety. Unfortunately or fortunately, there is negative PR with respect to safety in India. So that makes it a little bit more challenging for convincing anyone that from an outside perspective, let's schedule something in or organize something in India versus organize something in Dubai, for an example.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for your time and effort today. I think we are out of time now, and I would like to see you later for the next session, and thank you again for your great contribution.
Thank you very much.